The Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Real Doctor Who fans with real Doctor Who opinions.
Hello and welcome, fellow time travelers, to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. I am your host, the ever-enthusiastic and always optimistic, well, usually, Brett. In today's episode, I'm going to be looking at the list that came out in Doctor Who magazine around December or November of 2023. Yes, this was the 60th anniversary fans ranking of every single episode of the classic series from 1963 all the way up to, I believe it was Jodie's era in 2022, maybe 2021, I'm not sure, because I don't have the magazine. I need to find this magazine so I can pick it up and look at it and completely nerd out. I have purged all of my Doctor Who magazines physically. I have a lot of them, scanned, but there's only one that I have physically to this day, and that is the 2013 50th anniversary fans ranking. I need the 60th fan ranking because I love this so much. In today's podcast, I'm going to be looking at the top 10, comparing that with the top 10 of the 2013, as well as the list that came out for the 13th Doctor. Now, as I was looking at some of the screenshots that some people have uploaded, I didn't really want to look too deep into it because I wanted to give authentic reaction to seeing this list for the first time. And so, we at the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast do not like being phony. We like to be, show our, even killness or whatnot. And I think that the best way to do that is by doing it live, recorded live, and then uploaded obviously later. But this is going to be focusing on lists and from the 60th anniversary. And then again, I'm going to look at the 13th Doctor's lists, because I think that is going to be interesting, especially because I find that sometimes we tend to be prisoner of the moment. And I think and I believe when we did the list from 2013, number one on the list was Day of the Doctor, because we were prisoner of the moment at the time. And I don't want to fall into that trap. So that being said, please email the show with your thoughts and feelings on this list. Tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. DMs are open. And now, without further ado, let's look at the list. So, from a Den of Geek article, which came out in the 10th of November, 2023, they basically stated, choosing your favorite Doctor Who episode feels like a bit like choosing your favorite child, except you probably don't have 800 plus children, so maybe it's even worse. But that's exactly what Doctor Who magazine inflicted upon the fans earlier this year. And, I wish I was able to participate in this one, but it's going to be quite interesting because I'm going to go through this and, I will give you my thoughts on the entirety of this list, as well as the comparing the original one. So that being said, let me remind everybody what the first list was. All right, so 2013 results from Doctor Who Magazine issue 474 are up on my computer. I'm going to be going through the top 10 of that poll result and then comparing and contrasting those of the top 10 from 2023. So from the 50th anniversary to the 60th anniversary, it's going to be quite interesting to see, how much of the new series stuff has displaced some of the classic era, as well as some of the things, from the 50th anniversary. Day of the Doctor, we were prisoner of the moment in 2013, as that was the, celebratory special, and it, what came in first place. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see what are we currently prisoner of the moment of. It'd be interesting kind of if we were to have, say, a Wilderness Years to see, 5 years down the line, because at one point in time I noticed that Doctor Who Magazine used to do this every 5 years. However, who knows, staffing purposes, maybe just, now we're only doing it per decade instead of every 5 years, what that would look like. But if we did have a Wilderness Years, it'd be really quite interesting to see what would be moved around, because we don't have any, prisoner of the moment rankings, the newest thing being the best thing ever since sliced bread. So from 2013, at number 10, we have Remembrance of the Daleks. Number 9, Human Nature and Family of Blood from the new series. Number 8, The Pyramids of Mars. Number 7, The Empty Child the Doctor Dances. Number 6, The Talons of Wen Chiang. Number 5, The City of Death. Number 4, The Caves of Androzani. Number 3, Genesis of the Daleks. Number 2, Blink. And like I said before, Prisoner of the Moment had just barely come out not that long ago. Number 1, The Day of the Doctor. So I'm going to be very curious to see from the 50th anniversary to the 60th anniversary where Day of the Doctor is. I don't have the full Doctor Who magazine, as I said earlier, but will it be in the top 10? I don't know. All I did is quickly pull a screenshot up and then close the window, because I want this to be as reactionary, interesting as possible. So with that, I'll get to that at another day, another time. So number 10 on the most current list from 2023 is Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. This is the 10th Doctor story featuring Donna and the 10th Doctor. This is a fantastic story. I feel as though I think 10 is an adequate place to put it. And I find it interesting that, this was on the original list in 31st place. So we've had more River Song since 2013. And I'm curious if that is, helping move that up the top 10 list. So I think that's kind of interesting that it went from 31st to 10th. Number 9. Now this is interesting. Number 9 is Remembrance of the Daleks, the 7th Doctor story with Ace. And this one, as previously mentioned, this was on the number 10 list only a decade ago or 10 years ago. So I think that that's quite interesting how that Remembrance of the Daleks is really held in high esteem with Doctor Who fans. And one of the things I need to do is I just need to buckle down and read that book so that I can, and then do a comparison contrast between the book and also the TV series. Number 8 on the modern list, we have City of Death, the 4th Doctor adventures with Romana 2. And City of Death, it actually has dropped just a couple places. It went from 5th to 8th place. Not that huge of a drop. I personally find City of Death, maybe I need to rewatch it. I find it kind of overrated in my opinion, but you know what? That is my opinion. Number 7 on the modern list, we have Human Nature and Family of Blood, which is from the Paul Cornell story, the Doctor Who Missing Adventures book, the New Adventures of the Virgin novelizations. And that one was, where was that? That was in 9th place. So it has gone up in popularity since 10 years ago. And again, this is where, the Doctor becomes human and has Martha watching over him. And so Number 6 is a surprise. Number 6 is Blink, the classic episode featuring the 10th Doctor and, the one of the first main Doctor Light, Companion Light episodes, which was fantastic. It comes in the 3rd season series of the new series of Doctor Who, again featuring Martha as the companion and David Tennant as the Doctor. This is one of those near perfect episodes, and it has slid down from its 2nd place all the way down. Well, I mean, not that far, but still in 6th place. Number 5 on the new list is The Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary, featuring the War Doctor, as portrayed by John Hurt, the current iteration of the Doctor, Matt Smith's 11th Doctor, and then David Tennant reprising his role for the first time as the 10th Doctor since he stepped down and, started doing other things. And it go again, 2013, that was number 1. Number 4, we have the final story, Caves of Xanderzani, the fantastic 5th Doctor story, the regeneration story. That is, or not that, well, his last story, his last adventure as he regenerated from the 5th Doctor to the 6th Doctor. Both polls, Caves of Xanderzani, 4th place. And I think that deservingly so. In 3rd place in the modern list is Genesis of the Daleks, which is also in the same exact spot from 2013. In 2nd place, we have the 12th Doctor story, World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls. That is quite interesting. That has... I need to rewatch that because I'm not sure what I missed, and I'm not sure if it was just because I was it kind of came with that trilogy of lies, deception, the whatever pyramid at the end of the world, whatnot. I think I'm going to have to rewatch World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls. I think that is going to be a must watch for me because I would not put this on my top 10, 20, 30, maybe on the outskirts of like a 50 list, possibly. So I kind of think that's quite interesting. Again, 2nd place was Blink on the old list. And in 1st place in the modern list, Heaven Sent, the 12th Doctor story. So 12th Doctor getting lots of love in this most modern list. And of course, on the old list, we had Day of the Doctor as the 1st place. I think that's quite interesting. I'd love to, in the future, when I pick up this magazine, I'm going to have to look at this because I'm really curious because War Games went from 2009 all the way to 2013, made a significant jump. And I'd be kind of curious to figure out where that went, especially and then Web of Fear, as we kind of gotten that with the horrible animation, but still the missing episode is animated. Power of the Daleks now has 2 animated episodes, so it's going to be kind of interesting to find out where that one fell. And so I there's going to be so much things that are going to be so interesting to see when we look and do a comparison between the full list from 2013-14 to this most modern list, all 300 or however many episodes there are now. All right, so I'm going to be going over the 13th Doctor list as rated by fans of the Doctor Who magazine because when I saw this, when I just briefly took a look of it before I just downloaded the image onto my computer, I was actually like jaw dropped open because I saw 2 things and I was amazed. And so I decided to not look at any of the other rankings from 1 to 25 from the 3rd Doctor range, or 13th Doctor range. Thank you, brain. And just kind of do it live and do a live reaction to it because I think that this is because the 13th Doctor has been one of the more polarizing Doctors as of late, and maybe you could almost say maybe Ncuti, his Doctor, has kind of taken that has won that title currently. I don't know. It just depends on who you listen to, what your thoughts are. But I think that there is going to be some interesting things when we do like the 70th anniversary, if they're not going to go 5 years at a time, which I really would prefer them doing. Anyway, that being said, let's get to the 13th Doctor's list of 24 episodes. And the main reason why I want to do this live and not kind of have any foreknowledge of anything is because the first thing I saw was number 1, as rated by the readers of Doctor Who magazine who filled out this survey. They posted the best 13th Doctor story of all is The Power of the Doctor. Now, that for me, that was not a good story whatsoever. I found that you're waiting for the 13th Doctor's story arc or whatever to kind of, get some further explanation. We're waiting for the universe, the Earth to be set in order, maybe some timeless child thing figured out. And all we got is the timeless child thing put into the heart of the TARDIS because it was too hard for Chris Chibnall to actually explain, because he wanted to be a big boy and create a multi-doctor story without being able to use any of the previous doctors. But he wasn't a big boy enough to actually think of and write how to get this done and make it make sense. And so he used, obviously, Brain of Morbius, which, again, fan theory should trump what was initially meant. I think what needs to happen, and what I found interesting as of lately, because I've been monitoring a little bit of the Disney Plus series, The Acolyte, and I've been listening to some commentators, and so there's been some questions on what's going on with here and canon and changing canon and doing this and doing that. And then the creator of The Acolyte has gone on and explained the episode. Well, if you have to explain the episode, like, you did not do a good job of making the episode to begin with. And I think that is been the problem with the Chibnall era, is there's so many things that were left unanswered, and kind of, you could say, RTD Part 2. They did do that in the End of Time with who is this lady that looked at the Doctor and then, covered their hands, as Rassilon, right-hand woman or whatever. Everybody could be Susan, could be Romana. Who knows who this could be? Regenerative Leela, because they decided to put experiments on her. Whatever. That was just like some ramblings out there. But I think that this is where we're really struggling with long-running franchises. Is the current creators don't want to put the legwork or expect the audience to put the legwork in doing their research, which is odd because we are in a technological era where you could just easily Google something, check the wiki, as Liam would tell to me to do Blake 7 and Dark Shadows. And I was just like, no, absolutely not. If I can't get it or am not interested in getting it through watching the show, I'm not checking out the wiki. But, that's what they could do. People could check out the wiki so that they kind of have a really better understanding of what's going on with this long-running show. And so now moving on. So number 1, Power of the Doctor. Again, I think this is very similar to how Day of the Doctor was number 1 out of all of them from 2013/14's Doctor Who magazine. Prisoner of the moment, and needed to have something that was brand new and super exciting. And not saying that the 50th anniversary wasn't great, but I think it was heralded way too high. It was overrated. It was great. I loved it. I enjoyed watching it. I watched it multiple times, but I think that it is kind of a tad bit overrated, much like the Power of the Doctor. If I were to put something on this, and I know, some of you who've listened to the podcast know that I do love Kerblam. I would not put Kerblam at number 1, maybe top 5, but not number 1. I would put, for the 13th Doctor, either Demons of the Punjab, because I really enjoyed that story, or even I would put Spyfall Part 1 in there as probably one of the higher episodes. And then, I know a lot of people like Fugitive of the Jadoon and Rosa. I take that back. I probably would put Demons of the Punjab up there because I, again, really liked it. I would put Spyfall Part 1, really good. Also, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, really good. So that's what I would put for number 1. I think Power of the Doctor is way overrated. At least they do not have Legend of the Sea Devils. I'm not sure where that's going to land, but at least Legend of the Sea Devils, not number 1. So now I'm going to pull up this list And I'm going to go through this and give my commentary. So obviously, number one, Power of the Doctor. Number two, The Haunting of Villa Diodati, as I was told how to pronounce it by Legion. And I find my biggest problem with that one is obviously we got from the Prisoner, was it Prisoner? I think it was Prisoner to the Jadoon. Or no, it was not Prisoner. It was the New Year's Eve special where the Doctor was incarcerated in space prison. And we had Captain Jack get her out using, keystering some sort of transportation device, which, is a super fun thing to explain to young children, as Legion did also himself when they watched it this past Christmas together as a family. But you have this situation where Captain Jack told them, don't do this. And then for a haunting, you give it to a historical figure, and because they did poetry or because they did arts, they now are deemed more important than average Joe citizen. So we can't kill this person. So I guess this Cyberium would be okay to kill in anybody else, unless it was, Mary Shelley's husband or Mary Shelley herself. Like, I found that was just lazy writing. Like, it would have been more meaningful to have the Doctor stand and be like, this person's life matters. They might not have done anything that, contributed to society, but they themselves mattered to their loved ones, to their family, to their friends, to, their up and coming generations. I can't do this. Now, of course, she did it and then allowed, because he had to exist, doomed the human/Earth population. But, that's just another thing that never got figured out and sorted out by Power of the Doctor. Number three is Fugitive of the Jadoon. And I think that would have been, for me, number one on the list if we did not have the Ruth Doctor. I think the Ruth Doctor made a game changer. It, again, self-created it changed the fan theory of who the faces of Morbius were, which being the faces of Morbius, even though that's not what Terrence Dicks had initially intended. Fan theory should take over what was initially meant. And that is where Chris Chibnall also, falls flat on his face, going in God mode. And I just disagree with that. I think it would have been great if it was, incarceration or an incarnation of a fellow Time Lord. So he's not the last one, because obviously, the Sacha Dhawan Master murdered everybody. Why do we have to have an extra Doctor? Why can't we have a fellow Gallifreyan? And I think that was the fault of Fugitive of the Jadoon. Number four, Rosa. I know when it came out, it was heralded very high amongst fans. It had a powerful message, and it was something that made some people uncomfortable. It was part of history. It happened. Rosa is okay. And for the Jodie Doctor, for the 13th Doctor, being number four does make sense. Number five on this list, Demons of the Punjab. I find that one very interesting because it was part of world history revolving around culture that I did not know. And I felt like, I learned something, and it was pretty good. Number six, Spyfall. Now, I think it would have been a lot better if Spyfall did not end the way it did in part two. Again, the Sacha Dhawan Master having to hide his skin tone because he was working with Nazis. And then, of course, he kind of died, but then didn't. There's a lot of things that could have worked with Spyfall. You had Stephen Fry, who they used to get people engaged by having a huge name, and then they kill him off within like 7 minutes and 13 seconds. Like, I just know. Eve of the Daleks. Whenever you need a storage room to, hide all of your, keep all of the girls who have ditched you's stuff, and then, that was. I always like a Groundhog Day episode. I love Stargate SG-1's Groundhog's Day. There is a fun, like, teen comedy romp type of thing that is on Amazon Prime. Fantastic Groundhog's Day episode. There's a great one that is called Premature. Fantastic. I absolutely love that Groundhog's Day episode. You have another one that is on Netflix with Marlon Wayans waking up naked in a elevator. Very fun. Oh, sign me up always for a Groundhog's Day episode. This one just didn't work 100% well. And especially because all you had to do to not get exterminated is to duck. But I will say, I think it is probably the best New Year's special out of all of the 13th Doctor New Year's specials. Number 8 is The Woman Who Fell to Earth, which I think should be a little bit higher. I think the Mark Shaw, Jeff Shaw, whatever Shaw, the Tooth Face villain that we had, I think that could have been worked in a little bit better, especially when they brought him back in, the Battle of whatever. But Woman Who Fell to Earth is, I think, a pretty good regeneration story. Not as good as the 11th Hour. I think that is the best regeneration story of New Who. Then we have Resolution. Wait, was Resolution Eva? Resolution. I can't remember if that's the Groundhog's Day. I thought Eva the Daleks was Groundhog's Day. Resolution. Oh no, Resolution was the one with the Dalek that jumped on people's back and then kind of created a whatever type of thing. Yeah. I mean, at least at number 9 right here, now we're really starting to, take a dive in quality. And that is horrifying, if you ask me. Oh my word, I can't believe what I just saw. Whoa. Okay, I cannot wait to get to this because, we got a dumpster fire coming up real soon. All right. So, number 10, as rated by the fans of Doctor Who magazine, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. Again, one of the biggest criticisms I have of Chris Chibnall is every single thing most of his stories take place on Earth and or humanity bad. And Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror is up there with that. Number 11, The Witchfinders. I can't believe that is number 11. That episode is awful. It should be near the very bottom, but again, I think with the Chris Chibnall's writing and direction and leadership, I think I think about episode 9. We're now at what would be, and that's where I need to get this Doctor Who magazine. Is I need to figure out where these are on the top 425, however many episodes we have to count, at least over 400. Witchfinders is not good. Now, here's the one. This is a train wreck right here because I just barely realized what should have been in the top 5. And I didn't realize it was missing until I saw this right here. In the top 5, it should have been the Weeping Angels. The time of, not the Time of Angels. Whatever. Maybe it was the time of, who cares? I don't know because they didn't put it on here. Because number 12, as rated by the fans of Doctor Who magazine, is the entirety of The Flux. Number 12. Okay. Sure. I see the episode where Liam, I force Liam to give me a very detailed review. Let me see what episode it is, because I thoroughly enjoyed it, because he wanted to skirt past that sucker so bad, and I forced him to give me about a 90-minute review of the Flux. Let's see, where is it? It is, I'm not sure where it is. Anyway, not that big of a deal. Okay, back to this. Number 13, it takes you away. I've already forgotten it takes you away. My brain has purged that from ever watching it, and I did watch it. Next, the revolution of the Daleks. Now, here's the thing. Which one is that? Like, is that the one with the Dalek mutants and the other thing and the guy from Arachnids in the UK? I don't know. They're not memorable. Number 15 is Kerblam, and I think that should be in the top 10. Kerblam is fantastic. 16 is a dual one, which is Ascension of the Cybermen and the Timeless Children. That should be near the bottom. For that one to be at near mid-level, like, again, I think that this is where the 13th Doctor's era really is struggling. To have the Ascension of the Cybermen and the Timeless Child, especially with the Timeless Child. I think the Timeless Child should have just taken that sucker down, near the very bottom because of just how polarizing and how, just a mess everything is. Then we have, let's see, Can You Hear Me? That is the, super happy, depressing one with Yaz. 18 is the Ghost Monument, which I think it should be a little bit higher. I think it's probably better than the Flux, possibly. 19 is Praxius. Sure, why not? Number 20, Arachnids in the UK. Yeah, sure. Why not that too? 21, the Synura conundrum with the face plant on the keyboard monster, as Liam would say. Now 22, we got the Legend of the Sea Devils. We're almost at the bottom because there's only 24 of these. 23 is the Battle of and the worst episode rated by readers of Doctor Who magazine and anybody who filled this out. Number 24, Orphan 55. And I will tell you, I think that Orphan 55 is better than Praxius, better than Arachnids in the UK, better than the Synura Conundrum, better than the Legend of the Sea Devils, better than Can You Hear Me, better than It Takes You Away, even though I have no idea what It Takes You Away is. I can't remember that. Better than the Nikola Tesla. I know that there is faults with Orphan 55, but I think it is better than there. I think there is so many, and then within the Flux, to have the Flux itself be a self-contained, they just did not want, I don't know. All right, well, I'm going to conclude this podcast, but before I do, I'm going to ask you, the listener, what do you think of Doctor Who Magazine's top 10 most recent 2023 result poll? What are your thoughts about the 13th Doctor ratings? Do I have it wrong? Do the readers of this magazine have it wrong? What are your thoughts? Email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. You can tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. DMs are open. Please stay tuned for upcoming episodes. Please listen to our back catalog. I'd love to hear questions from you. Again, if you send a question, I guarantee it will be answered. I'm not getting any questions through the YouTube channel. I'm not sure why. I've kind of gone through sometimes episode by episode and have seen that, at least, we've got some people who have promos or capital P space, capital R space, that type of a thing. And that has not come through there either. So please email the show, like the show, subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. We are available on all the major podcasting platforms. Again, would love to hear from you. And until next time, we will see you in time.
You have been listening to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Doctor Who is owned and trademarked by the BBC. Doctor Who Alhambra is not affiliated with the BBC or Big Finish. No infringement is intended. Visit our website at alhambrapodcast.weebly.com or email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. Tweet us at Alhambra Podcast. That is ALHAMBRA Podcast. Thank you.